Welcome to episode 56 of Uncaged Sports Talk. College football is it was back last week, but it is officially back. Week 1 of college football is underway. Week 0 is done and over. All the underdogs won last week. Luke's locks college football wise is 1-3. As you all know, though, college football is not my strong suit. NFL wise, last year I was 72-42. I'll probably say that again next week, as we got an NFL video episode coming up. But the college football season is here, and we are ready to roll on episode 56. This is going to be a little bit of a shorter episode, as you all know. As you all know, college is not my strong suit. I went over some Luke's locks. And 2 Luke's lists this week. It's predictions for the upcoming year. Luke's locks is some bets I like this week. Hopefully we do better on these bets. I took a lot of alt lines again and some money lines for this. It's an 8-leg parlay. It's like 8-1, I believe. Something like that. Or like 6-1. I put like $5 on it, can make a $33 profit. Before I get into that, though, I want to go over friends' picks he gave me for this week. One of my friends said his picks are West Virginia against Penn State plus 8.5. He's taking West Virginia plus 8.5. He's taking Akron plus 51.5 against Ohio State. 51.5 is an insane line. But that's the type of game you look up and it's 38-0 at halftime. And you're like, come on, like Akron. 51.5, it's almost too good not to take. This is Chase Davis, by the way. I had him on an episode. He says he's following more college this year, though, than NFL. Georgia minus 9.5. Georgia minus 9.5 against Clemson. I like that. I think Georgia wins a game. But I don't know what the score is going to be. Missouri minus 42.5. I don't even know who they're playing. I know they got Luther Burden, who's like the best receiver in all of college football. They're playing Murray State, an FCS team, tonight at 8. 42.5 is a big line. I guess he's high on Luther Burden, just showing up against Murray State, just showing out. That's his picks. We actually have a similar top 5. We'll get into that shortly. I'll run through his first before I get into mine. But for my Luke's locks of the week, hopefully we do better than 1-3, what we did last week. For Luke's locks, here we go. If the underdog trend continues, North Dakota State will cover the plus 14.5. I'll take North Dakota State plus 14.5 against Colorado tonight. I think Colorado wins the game, but I think North Dakota State keeps it within 2 touchdowns. A lot of people do think Shedeur is overrated. A lot of big college football fans, they're not a big fan of Shedeur. And not letting Shedeur talk, or not letting the press ask Shedeur questions, that's kind of odd too. I like Temple plus 48.5. Some of these are alt lines. Temple plus 48.5 I like against Oklahoma. Sure, they're on the road, but 48, it's the same thing as Akron. 48.5 is almost too good not to take. I'd take Temple plus 48.5 there. Penn State plus 0.5 against West Virginia. The reason I have it at plus 0.5 and not just money line, for some reason, the plus 0.5 was better odds than the money line, which doesn't really make sense because it's the same difference. You're not going to tie in college football. So I don't get why the plus 0.5 point makes the difference. That's basically money line, but I'm getting better odds in the money line. I don't understand it. Someone please explain to me in the comments. I like Clemson plus 20.5 against Georgia on Saturday. I think 20.5 is a good line. A lot of people think Clemson could somewhat return to form this year with Dabo still at the helm. They finally don't have DJ Ugale. I don't even know how to say his name. The dude who got upset last week by Georgia Tech. I got Oklahoma State money line. I was trying to see if there's a good South Dakota State alt line, but there wasn't. But I do like Oklahoma State to be able to win that game. So Oklahoma State money line I like against an FCS school. South Dakota State is a power in FCS, so be worrisome about that game. But Oklahoma State money line, they should be able to win it. They're ranked in the top 17 in the country. I almost would take the regular line, but if you can get an alt line, I'll take it all day long. Cincinnati's regular line is minus 31.5 against Towson. Towson doesn't have a great football program. They're not known for their football program. I would take Cincinnati minus 25.5 against Towson all day long. All day long, every day of the week. Give me Cincinnati minus 25.5 against Towson. I like Maryland money line. They're playing in UConn. Sure, the odds aren't great for it, but I'd throw it into the parlay like I did here. I played this parlay. It was $5. Maryland money line against UConn. And then JMU money line. I forget who they're even playing. I think it's a very bad school. Might be FCS, actually. Looking up their football schedule. They're playing Charlotte. Charlotte's not FCS, but Charlotte's not a good football program at all. JMU was ranked at some points last year. They're one of the better group of 5 teams right now. I would take JMU money line. Those are my Luke's locks this week. I think they should all hit for the most part. And it'll give me some rooting interest in games this weekend. North Dakota State, Temple tomorrow night, Penn State, Clemson, Oklahoma State. Give me some rooting interest in some games throughout the weekend. Now we will get into the best Heisman bets. Luke's list. Coming in at number 5 at plus 20,000. I like Cade McNamara. It's basically 200 to 1. If you see 20,000, it's 200 to 1. 10,000 is 100 to 1. Anything under that's 80 or less. Like the plus 900, it's 9 to 1. So Caden McNamara, I'd get 200 to 1 at Iowa. If you make Iowa's offense look good, granted, Iowa has a hard schedule. But if you make Iowa's offense look good, you're the story of the season. And Heisman usually goes to whoever the story of the year is, it seems like in college. Cade McNamara, 200 to 1, I would take. I actually put $1 on it just to mess around. Ollie Gordon at Oklahoma State. That's the reason I also took Oklahoma State over South Dakota State. They got one of the better players in the country. Ollie Gordon, 80 to 1. I'll take that all day long. A running back could win in the Heisman Trophy. Ollie Gordon, 80 to 1. I like that. Dylan Raiola. It goes back to the story thing. 100 to 1. I like those odds too. Put $2 on it. You can win 200. If Dylan Raiola brings Nebraska back to prominence at all, if he gets them to 10-2, let's say, and they don't have too hard of a schedule, somewhat difficult considering it's Nebraska we're talking about. But if he gets Nebraska to a playoff, Dylan Raiola is going to be in the talk for the Heisman Trophy. You can get Nebraska back to prominence. And he has all the talent in the world. He was a number 1 recruit. This is his first year in college. So we'll see how he can do in his first test in college. Hopefully he can got $2 on it. Win me 200, Dylan. Go bring Nebraska back to prominence. Make Nebraska good again. Make Nebraska great again. Then I got Carson Beck at 9 to 1, coming in at number 2 on this list. Carson Beck's really good. He has all the talent. He's probably going to be the number 1 pick in the NFL draft next year. At least as of now. Carson Beck at 9 to 1. Georgia's going to be probably the number 1 ranked team in the country this year. They got a great QB, the best QB probably they've had since Matt Stafford. Carson Beck at 9-1 I like. And then Quinn Ewers, I like a lot. Quinn Ewers, if he can bring Texas to a national championship or top 5 ranking, Quinn Ewers could definitely be in the running. You bring Texas back to prominence for a second year, you're good enough to be in the ranking. Texas had been irrelevant for a few years. You bring Texas to a top 3 ranking and a potential national championship bid, you're the story. You're one of the stories of the year. So I like that over the Carson Beck one at 9-1. So to recap, Caden McNamara at 200-1 comes in at number 5. Coming in at number 4 is Ollie Gordon at 80-1. Coming in at number 3 is Dylan Raiola at 100-1. Coming in at number 2 is Carson Beck at 9-1. And coming in at number 1 is Quinn Ewers at 9-1. Now I want to let you all know to go and visit my friend Dan the Man Stanley at Sheridan Nissan, where he will hook you up with a new car. Just let him know, or let any of them know, Luke Saranka and Uncaged Sports Talk sent you. Now, before we get into this next slide, for my top 5 predictions for the end of the year, I'm going to get into chases. I asked a few friends to send me this. Some friends weren't too confident in their college football predictions. The national champion, he had Georgia winning the national championship. Nothing wrong with that. I actually should go backwards. It's my bad. I started off wrong. Coming in at number 5, he had Alabama coming in at number 5. Not a bad pick. I'm not sure about the board, but he was just in the college football playoff with Washington. If he can get there with Washington, he can get there with Alabama. Coming in at number 4 is Quinn Ewers and the Texas Longhorns. Coming in at number 3 on his list is Dylan Gabriel, Tez Johnson, and that Oregon offense. They got some pieces there. They got 2 good wide receivers. And they got a solid running back. They got a good offense there in Eugene, Oregon. Coming in at number 2 is Ohio State. They just are loaded with talent. 2 great running backs, Travion Henderson, Quinshon Judkins. And coming in at number 1 is Georgia on his list. Now, our lists are very similar. Almost identical, except for the 5, and you flip with 3 and 4. But I'll get into that right now. Coming in at number 5 on my list, I have LSU. LSU has a lot of talent that could be drafted within the next few years. LSU comes in at number 5. Brian Kelly gets back to the college football playoff. LSU gets back to the college football playoff for the first time since Ed Orgeron and Joe Burrow. Coming in at number 4 is Oregon. Kind of touched on that already with the receivers on the outside. Dylan Gabriel, quarterback. They got a good offense there. Coming in at number 3 is Texas. They got who I think might be one of the better quarterbacks, who I think might be the best QB in the country, Quinn Ewers. And they got a good backup if Quinn goes down. You're not screwed like Florida State was with Jordan Travis going down. Coming in at number 2 is Ohio State. I want to touch on this one a little more and the reasoning. I almost wanted to put them as my national champion, but I do not trust Ryan Day. I'll tell you the reasoning. I'm just pulling up just to run through their players. I'm looking up a consensus big board, and I'm going to name off as many players that are projected to go in the first round for Ohio State next year. I remember seeing something last year or the year before. The team that wins the national championship usually has the most first-round picks drafted. And going off of that, Ohio State has Emeka Egbuka. That's one projected first-round pick. Denzel Burke, a corner. Emeka Buka is a great wide receiver, maybe one of the best in the country. Tylik Williams, a D lineman. JT Tuamalu, an edge rusher. So we're at 4. Yeah, 4. At 30, Quinshawn Judkins. That's 5. Quinshawn Judkins is really good. Really, really good, actually. At 32, you have Jack Sawyer and edge rusher. Quinshawn Judkins is a running back, by the way, if you don't know. But if you're watching this episode, I would assume you know. Also, the Oregon receiver, I forgot the name, is Evan Stewart. But Jack Sawyer's, and you got Jack Sawyer and edge rusher. That's 6. I'm scrolling down the list a little more. You got Travion Henderson, who I already mentioned, who's ranked 49th in the country right now on big boards. You got Donovan Jackson. That's 8 people in the top 32. Donovan Jackson's an O-lineman. You got some O-line. Let's even look at next year, 2026. Because they got a lot of guys this year. Next year, this guy's already on their roster. Jermaine Matthews, a corner. He's a top 4 projected right now. Carnell Tate, Caleb Downs, a safety. That's 3 next year in the first round already. And I'm not even towards the end of the first round. Okay, so 3 projected first round picks next year. Brandon Anias, a second round pick receiver. They got some talent. They got some talent in Columbus, Ohio. So I'd put them there. The only reason they're not number 1 for me, you even got Will Howard at QB, but the only reason they're not number 1 is Ryan Day. Ryan Day has not been able to win any big games in his tenure as the Ohio State head coach. So Ohio State comes in at number 2. And coming in at number 1, Georgia and Kirby Smart. Not much needs to be said. They got the best QB in the country, and they usually will have a top 3 defense in the country, maybe the best defense in the country, and they might very well have the best QB in the country. As you all know, though, take these rankings. If you're going to do any betting with any of that information that I just supplied you all with, take it all with a grain of salt. As you all know, I am not the biggest college football fan. I'm excited to watch some college football this year. I'll actually be training and learning how to produce during the University of Maryland versus UConn game for 105.7 The Fan in Maryland, in Baltimore. But take these college predictions with a grain of salt. Next week is when you want to tune in. Next week, I'm going to do 2 episodes. I'm going to do a live episode on Monday when I'm off work. I'm going to just do predictions for the NFL season. And then on Thursday, we will do a week 1 episode for the NFL, where we will go over my week 1 predictions, my Luke's Locks for the week. And I will do Luke's Locks for every single game. Last year, I was 72-42. That's a 63% clip. You need a 60% clip to be profitable. I set it up as if I'm doing a parlay, but parlays are not profitable, and I don't have the money to just do straight up bets. But if you're taking my advice on the money line or the spreads of games, you're more than likely going to be profitable at the end of the year if you have the money where you can bet it. So tune in for Luke's Locks next week, next Thursday, and tune in for my week 1 predictions on Monday. That'll do it for this episode of Uncaged Sports Talk. Thank you for tuning in. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe on all of our platforms. It is greatly appreciated. Tune in next week as week 1 of the NFL gets underway.